Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming to today's webinar. My name is Ariel Sharf. I'm the Senior Product Marketing Manager at Hint. And today you're going to be hearing from Dr. Daniel Hodge. He's the owner and founder of Fourth Tree Health. He's going to be telling you his story of how he built his practice and how he's hit over 50 patients in the first 3 months using HintOS and Acute Health EMR in order to build a great patient experience. After he talks about his story, myself and Sharud Agarwal will give some background on HintOS and Acute Health EHR, and then we will open it up for questions. So throughout today's webinar, if you have any questions, you'll see that you can ask a question in the if you hover your cursor over my face right now, essentially, you'll be able to see where you can ask a question. I encourage you to ask questions anytime during today's webinar, and we'll answer them all at the end. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Hodge.
Thanks, Ariel, and thank you, Hint, for inviting me to talk today. It's really exciting just to have the opportunity. So let me get the screen share going and we'll get started. Ariel, is that coming through okay?
Looking great.
Okay, cool. So nice to meet everyone. Today, we're going to talk about creating an exceptional DPC patient experience and how to leverage technology to build those relationships and grow your practice. I'm Dr. Daniel Hodge. I'm an internal medicine provider and obesity specialist and the founder of Fourth Tree Health. And thanks again for having me today. Just a little bit about me, just so folks in the audience kind of know who I am and where I'm coming from. I just recently got out of the Navy and was in the Navy for 11 years, and I separated in June of 2020. I'd been planning my DPC launch over the last year while I was in the military. And in the military, I was predominantly doing sort of a traditionalist role where I was doing primary care, also inpatient hospitalist work. And I was running the Navy's only cardiometabolic weight loss clinic. So helping active duty soldiers stay on active duty and maintain their body composition standards. This is where I practice now, and I couldn't be happier. I moved back to my hometown in central Pennsylvania and launched this clinic. And it's just been really exciting to see essentially a year and a half of planning and thinking about the clinic that I wanted to have while I was finishing up my time in the Navy, and to watch the practice grow. Like Ariel mentioned, we've been fortunate to grow pretty steadily in the pandemic, and we'll talk about some of the reasons I think behind that with the technology. A lot of people looked at me kind of sideways, and especially one of my mentors in the military when I told him I wasn't going to do a military fellowship, but instead I was going to leave the Navy and start a direct primary care practice. And launching in a pandemic was definitely concerning. So the economy is relatively unstable. People maybe don't have as much expendable income. But I knew there was something in my heart that I wanted to give a shot. And so I moved back to Camp Hill, Pennsylvania, which is where I'm from. And I didn't have a panel of patients to recruit from. So I really started from zero and worked hard with sort of recruiting and marketing in the months leading up to the launch, which I think helped. But I didn't have a panel to recruit from like some of the direct primary care doctors that are out there did. So that was definitely a hurdle in the pandemic. So why take the DPC plunge? And I'm sure if there's other providers on the call that have their own practice, these things are gonna, probably resonate or sound very similar to the reasons that they chose to do direct primary care. But I like the idea of the plunge because you can talk about doing direct primary care and you can talk about leaving the major health system or opting out of Medicare. But until you kind of fully commit and jump off the cliff, those things don't start to fall in place. And the main reasons for me sort of taking the plunge were the administrative hassles, frustrations with bureaucracy, paperwork, kind of dealing with insurance, and having to see patients within sort of that restricted window and sort of having to meet certain metrics. And really the reason I went into internal medicine, I thought I was going to be doing a fellowship in either gastroenterology or cardiology were sort of the two areas that I was really interested in and had published research. But the more that I did locums work and talked to attending providers, I didn't feel like fellowship training was going to solve a lot of the system problems. And that, at the end of the day, just didn't really sit well with me. So I wanted to give DPC a shot. And once I jumped off the cliff, it was amazing to kind of see things, line up. And then this last thing, so meeting Dr. Garrison Bliss, some argue that he's the founder of direct primary care. And my whole sort of direct primary care journey, I owe a lot of thanks and mentorship to him. But it started with a long day in a Navy clinic. I was really frustrated. I found his website and started reading about direct primary care. Thought it was too good to be true. But on his website, he was asking for a young, motivated internist to come, check out his practice and consider joining it. And so I sent him an email, and 10 emails later, next thing I know, I'm on a plane out to Seattle and got to spend a couple weeks with him and experience what direct primary care was like, just see sort of his patient's response to the care that he provided. And after that moment, I was pretty much sold on giving it a shot. So some of my goals during the launch, some of them personal, some of them kind of professional, but I wanted to create a patient experience that was different than the one that my current patients are dealing with in fee-for-service. And I wanted something that was simple, efficient, it was accessible, all the things that make direct primary care a really kind of valuable healthcare option. And then improving the health of my community. I was obviously moving back to my hometown and wanted to help patients with cardiometabolic complications. I wanted to help patients lose weight in the community that I grew up in. So that's been really great to come back and connect and take care of, like my science teacher when I was in high school, or someone who I used to cut grass for as a kid. I think it's been really just a powerful way to give back, and I've really enjoyed that. And then the last three, I think, are sort of more personal, but I still think are really important. So I wanted somewhere that I actually enjoyed going to work. And in the Navy, as much as I like that they gave me free medical school, I can remember, the routine of shaving every day, putting on my military uniform, going into the hospital and just sort of dreading the patient list that I was going to have, sort of the restricted time slots in which I had to see patients, and some of the administrative hassles that I mentioned earlier. And then I'm an obesity specialist. I played college basketball, but exercise is, I think it's, part of my mental health treatment plan, but it's something that I prioritize. It helps me like take care of my kids better, take care of my patients better. And I wanted to be able to do that. And it's been really nice to be able to continue that plan. And then the last reason, I wanted time to be a good dad and participate in my family, and we're close now to both sets of in-laws, so grandparents are around. And this is one of the beauties of direct primary care when, clinic, you don't have any patients in the afternoon. I can go get my kids early from daycare, or I can drop them off at daycare every day. And I really wanted to prioritize that when I started my practice. So let's talk about the current patient experience. And this is something I think I actually experienced this recently with my kids and trying to get them a pediatrician appointment. So we had just moved back to the area, and my 3 and 5-year-old needed a flu shot for daycare. And, I called 4 or 5 different clinics. I faxed their health records multiple times, went through multiple phone trees, and couldn't even get them like a routine physical for 2 healthy children. And it was a really frustrating, sort of eye-opening experience. But we know that there are tons of barriers and things that get in the way between the patient and the doctor. And whether that's from like the front desk experience, faxing records, medical records, this can all get really frustrating really quickly. And what I think makes DPC so valuable and why patients really enjoy it is that, and this may be like overly simplistic, but it directly connects the patient with their doctor and healthcare team. There's not a lot of that administrative red tape, and this is the sort of patient experience that I would want for myself. Like when I couldn't get my kids a pediatrician appointment, I wanted, I would gladly pay for a DPC membership. Unfortunately, there's not one in my local area now for seeing kids. But this is the sort of relationship that we want, and technology, I think, allows us to create this. So one of the things that I prioritized from the beginning was the user experience, and spent a lot of time thinking about how would patients sign up, what would the workflows look like of, going from being interested in the clinic to actually becoming fully integrated as a member. And I thought of three main things that I thought were important. Number one, find the right technology. So not everyone's brain sort of works the same way, from an aesthetic standpoint. So try out a couple different electronic medical records, use them, tinker with them, find like what works and what workflows work best with your clinic, and what are going to sort of fit your lifestyle and things that you prioritize. So I had tried, I think by the end, including all the telehealth companies as well that I had sort of worked for part-time and still work for, I tried about 8 electronic medical records and created demo accounts and became pretty well versed in what each one looked like and what did the patient communication platforms look like and the billing software. So explore and find the right technology for you. Number 2, I think, is the patient experience starts before they join your practice. It starts really when you're talking to people in the community or when they're driving by your clinic, spending time on your website and learning about what direct primary care is, because there is that. You have to explain the benefit to patients before they start to like understand and then ultimately want to join. So a couple things you can do is I built my website on Squarespace, but understand the analytics, like look and pull up the information on what age groups are coming to your website. Where are they coming from? Are they coming from Google? Is it direct search? Are they coming from Facebook? And learning sort of who your target market is. And then that can also shape some of your marketing efforts too. And one of the features I think is really nice that Hint now offers, I think they started doing this in the fall, but these automated follow-up messages where people sign up or go to start signing up on the website, they kind of get halfway, get cold feet, and then stop. Like I'm sure most of us do with even Christmas shopping, you kind of build your cart and then you leave it hanging, and then you get emails, later saying like, oh, you left things in your cart. I think that from Hint is a really valuable tool, and you can actually pull that up in the admin dashboard and learn who's on the website, some basic demographic information, and then have that built-in automation. And then the third thing is make the first appointment accessible. My frustration with the pediatrician was I just couldn't even get the kids a visit. So make that the one of the easiest parts. Answer the phone, offer them a visit on the spot. Using the electronic record that I use, which I'm going to talk about, there's self-scheduling available. So it's really easy for patients to sort of just do it on their own. But this is low-hanging fruit and something that immediately creates value for the patient experience. So these are the four sort of foundational tools that we use every day in our clinic here at Fourth Tree Health. So Hint is going to be the foundation, and it integrates really well with Spruce for communication and e-faxing. We have some built sort of pre-populated messages for when people sign up, so that it's very easy, it's standardized, the content that we're delivering to all new members. We use MD scripts for our inventory management, and that also integrates really well from a billing standpoint when we're making some extra sales from the pharmacy. And then Acute Health, which you're going to meet Sherrod, who's the developer of Acute Health in a little bit, but I think by far this has been the best decision that we've made from a clinic standpoint for workflow, integration with technology, and then having that patient experience be seamless. So when I was looking at these different electronic records, I mentioned I looked at about 8 of them. Elation, I thought I was going to go with for the longest time. I looked at Atlas, Serbo, Athena, stumbled on Acute like sort of late at night one night in North Carolina, and ended up meeting Sherrod and really fell in love with that product. But I was looking for simple and clean interface, something that was very user friendly. I wanted something that was flexible so that I could document easily and quickly in the clinic, but then also take the EMR, outside the clinic. And funny enough, like last week, it was a opening day of hunting season for in Pennsylvania. All the schools are closed, and I was hunting in a tree stand and putting in refills of Lipitor. And my nurse was like, this is just crazy that you're still doing patient care. It's 28 degrees out and I'm freezing in a tree stand and still on Acute's mobile EMR platform. So I think that's really, really neat. I wanted something with growth and scalability. So if I bring on additional providers, or if I, hire a new nurse, can I train them quickly? And is the software intuitive that they could, pick it up? And then I mentioned sort of integrated billing before, but being cost conscious. So I was a startup. I basically self-funded all of this with my own money. So I wanted something that was reasonably priced at the beginning, but, good bang for my buck, and that I thought was valuable. And I think I found, a great product with Acute Health, and it's been great to work with Sherrod and watch his electronic record really kind of blossom since our launch. So he's added in a bunch of features and has taken feedback directly from providers and added some of those things to the record. Lab ordering integration, there's e-fax capability, there's self-scheduling, and all of those things have been really great for our patients and the user experience. A couple of my favorite features, and I'm sure he'll sort of dive into some of the details on this, but being organized and using his tasking feature between the nurse and myself, we can, make sure we're following up on all of our labs. We know who's coming into the clinic for visits, where referrals need to go to. So that tasking feature has been really great. The pre-populated templates and auto text for our routine physicals, or say for medication refill, we have those pre-built. So we're not spending a lot of time in the EMR. We're sort of hopping in, doing our thing, and focusing more on spending time with our patient. The document management and e-faxing, so uploading PDFs and being able to archive those things in the patient profile, or being able to upload a referral PDF and e-fax that to a local specialist has been a really, really great tool. So Ariel mentioned people thought I was crazy launching in a pandemic, but this is what our growth has looked like. And August was our first full month. And you can see here that things are really trending in the right direction, and we're about to hit 70 patients. We just had a few signups this week, and this slide I think is a little bit old, but I use and reference the Hint dashboard commonly just to get an idea of who's signing up, how many signups do we have, and this is something that you can pull from your Hint admin dashboard. and get an idea of how you're doing. So I'm really happy with, all things considered, and the recent Corona pandemic. All right, so I'm going to wrap up here in a few slides, but this is a quote that I think just sort of summarizes, why direct primary care is valuable, and also like why people think the technology is contributing to the user experience. And sure enough, I opened in August, and one of my first patients was an anesthesiologist that worked for the large local fee-for-service health system. And he joined, and I think we had a 2-hour initial history and physical, and we just enjoyed having a cup of coffee together and kind of discussing his past medical history. And it was really it was just a great visit and experience. And he's someone who understands fee for service and some of the shortcomings there, and finds a lot of value in direct primary care. And you can see here in his comments that the technology just made it easy for him to communicate, and that was a top priority for him and his experience with my clinic. And as we've grown, I kind of chuckle because we have several anesthesiologists now. We have cardiologists, OBGYN, a couple dentists, and those patients, are signing up rapidly, and they're not going and seeking care in the health system in which they work, which I just find that pretty much says everything you need to know about why direct primary care is valuable. So our 2021 goals, these are just a few of them, and maybe lofty, but I like to think big. I'd like to double our membership and get closer to 150 members by next December. And I think if we follow kind of the same trends, I think that's an achievable goal for sure. And the other things that we're considering, employer groups is a really big area where I think DPC can grow. So we have several ongoing discussions with local small business owners. And if I could sort of capitalize and convert some of the interested small business owners into actually creating and signing up for memberships for their employees, that's something I'd really like to do in 2021. And then helping others that are interested in DPC. When you read the Facebook group posts and hear from other direct primary care doctors like Garrison did for me, I think it's a community that really, it's physician led. The members support themselves, and I've learned so much just from Facebook messaging certain people that are in the DPC space, and I really appreciate that, and I want to pay that forward. So if there's someone, say, in the audience today that's thinking about a direct primary care clinic or launching that, and has questions about what technology to use, or what to think about with location or rent costs, if I could pay that forward, that's something that's a priority to me in 2021. So I'll leave the group before we open it up for questions with just some parting words of advice. And this isn't anything very profound, but it was a quote that I read in it was a Tim Ferriss book from maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but the quotes really stuck with me and helped me when I make decisions for the clinic and just general decision making. So Derek Sivers, who's an author and entrepreneur, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And one thing I've felt for sure as an owner of the practice is once you launch, you're going to get kind of pulled in these different directions, people trying to sell you billboard advertising, or they want you to go with this electronic record, or add these additional services, sell these certain medications, or have these samples. And one thing you got to always come back to and ask yourself, is this something you really want to do? Is this in line with sort of why you started your own direct primary care practice? And for me, this is a common question. I even ask it to Amy, who's our clinic manager and head nurse. If we're sort of on the fence, is this a hell yes, or is this a no? And it's amazing how valuable that has been for helping me make good decisions for the clinic. That's pretty much all I have. I think I just want to thank Hint and Sherrod for including me. I can't say enough good things about the Acute EMR and Hint as well. And happy holidays to everyone that's out there. I hope everybody stays safe with everything that's going on. So thanks again for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Hodge. I'm going to share my screen now. Great. Really appreciate that story. And I see there's already some questions coming in. As a reminder, if you have questions, there is a Q&A portion. So please enter those questions now, and we will definitely get to as many as we can. Okay, so in my section, I'm going to be talking about just kind of tagging along to what Dr. Hodge was speaking about, which is your first priority when you launch. There are a lot of different competing things for your attention when you first get started, and it can be really overwhelming to know what to focus on. You might be hearing things about like SEO, how do I make my website great? There's a lot of probably things pulling you in different directions. So I think the best solution, and what we've seen clinics with most success do, is to focus on the patient experience, because this is your product. Like, this is what you're selling and where you need to deliver the most value. So today we'll be talking about how HintOS and Acute help you deliver that great patient experience and set that right tone for the doctor-patient relationship that you're trying to cultivate. So before you launch, just make sure that you have your plan design and pricing all set. That's a pretty fundamental part of what a patient will be signing up for. You have the enrollment experience that you would want to have yourself, as Dr. Hodge mentioned, and that overall, like what the patient sees presents a positive first impression of you, the clinician, because the most important thing is building that trust between clinician and patient. So I'm going to start by talking about how HintOS can enable some of those things, and then Sherrod is going to talk about the clinical side. So prior to enrollment, HintOS is going to be one of the main touch points for new patients, and that's because one of the number one lead source for new patients is word of mouth. This means that when someone hears about your practice, the first thing they're going to do is look you up, and they should be able to sign up right there. That's why we have an online enrollment form that you're able to put on your website and customize to the extent that you want certain, like which membership you want that to go to, or if you want them to have an opportunity to choose different clinicians. There's a few different ways to customize that. And that way it's really easy for someone to, without even speaking to you first, enroll online. There's also the opportunity, many of our clients do this, to have a pending enrollment. So if someone signs up, they don't, you want to have a conversation with them first about like, what are the expectations of a member of this practice? I think that's pretty common. You can have them enroll online and they will be a pending membership, and then you can reach out to them separately. So that's two ways that we can kind of support that enrollment period. Dr. Hodge mentioned the abandoned cart marketing email that's automated. It's automatically turned on in your account. And what we've seen is 24% of patients who receive the abandoned cart email end up enrolling. So that's been really huge for growth for most of our practices, because as you would imagine, most people do not sign up the first time that they see your website, but they are reminded when they get those emails and come back and enroll. The third way that we help facilitate that trust before the relationship is giving you the opportunity to offer coupons or promotions. So we often see, especially for practices that are just launching, you might want to do an introductory rate of 3 months at a discounted rate just to get some more patients in up front. And that's really helpful in the long run, because like I mentioned, word of mouth is the biggest promoter of DPCs, which means the more patients you can get at the very beginning, the more you'll be able to grow down the line, because those are going to be your biggest advocates. And lastly, we have customizable membership plans. So if you plan to grow with both retail patients and employers, you're able to actually build those membership plans out and have those fit the right market that you're trying to reach. After they sign up, you'll notice that we have an auto pay feature. Something that's different about direct primary care is obviously the billing aspect of it. And being in a direct primary care world means that you might actually have to have more discussions with your patients about finances than you would have in fee-for-service land. Even though it is a better experience overall for the patient, you don't really want your day-to-day interactions to be reminding them that they missed a payment if they're like a day late. So HintOS automatically follows up with expired cards, missed payments, and just if they're missing a payment source. And that way, by the time that a payment is so late that you have to actually reach out to the patient, they should have already gotten those notifications, and it kind of eases the burden on that doctor-patient relationship, which should really be about the clinical setting and not as much about finances. And lastly, once they sign up, you can send custom email notifications to your members, which means that you can announce certain things in your practice that are important for members to know. And that's a really important thing when you first get started. You might not have a full-on marketing stack or marketing technology when you're first starting up. And so custom email notifications are a really lightweight way to communicate with your existing patients about what the things that you're doing in your practice. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Sherrod so he can talk about acute and how the clinical side differentiates from fee-for-service.
Thanks, Ariel. Appreciate it. And thanks, Dr. Hodge, also for the story, and appreciate your journey. So I think the main thing we're trying to do with Acute is help you present a great first impression, as well as obviously the clinical aspect of it. But really, you know, in DPC, you want to present something that's different than what the patient is used to. So typically, a patient is used to calling a clinic, trying to find out if they can get scheduled, if you take their insurance, whatever, and you know, they probably get your phone number from like their insurance company or something. And then if they're able to schedule an appointment, you'll probably get like a link to create a portal account, and then they'll have to answer a lot of questions from that account about their medical history and sign, you know, a bunch of different things. And then at the end of it, they see you and hope that the insurance pays for it. So it's like not a great first impression, right? So really, you want to create a great first impression and differentiate in that, showing that this is about a relationship between you and the patient. So ways you can do that is like with Hint, you can automatically sign up on the web. The patient can automatically sign up on your website. But what's awesome is at the end of the Hint sign up page, you can actually put a custom button there that directs them to your self-scheduling website through Acute. So patient goes to your website, they're ready to sign up, they sign up, and then at the end of it, they say, you have a button there that says schedule an appointment. And so now a patient can automatically schedule an appointment at a time that's convenient to them. They haven't had to call anyone. They haven't had to like go to another website or make an account or anything. It's all, again, without any accounts needed. So they haven't had to create a new account, a new password to remember. You know, all these little barriers, they start to add up. So we're trying to remove all those barriers. So they sign up through Hint, they schedule an appointment at a time that's convenient to them. And a new feature we're launching tomorrow actually is ability to put questions in that a self-scheduling page. So patient picks the appointment they want, and then we show them some questions that you choose. You can put whatever questions you want. And for example, you could ask questions like, what are your health goals? What are your personal goals? How have you been feeling? Like, it can just be whatever you want. And I think, especially for like the initial patient interaction, asking about their goals, that's not going to be something they're used to, right? They're going to be like, oh, wow, this doctor cares about what I want my health goals to be, or whatever my personal goals to be. That can be a really powerful connection. And you can also, in Acute, you can create a custom email that gets sent to the patient. So they schedule the appointment time they want, they fill out the questions you asked, and you send them an email with whatever you need, information about how to see you, maybe some forms for them to fill out, links to the forms, whatever it is. And again, all this has been done without any account creation needed. Again, and also we have forms in Acute, and those don't need an account either. So it's just reducing all those barriers to get the patient into your practice and giving them a great first impression, so signed up and they're like, wow, that was so easy. It took me like 5 minutes to get this new thing and get an appointment, whereas normally it takes like hours, right? So yeah, I think that's really a great way to have a first interaction with the patient, and really excited to see how you guys start using those questions also.
Great. So we wanted to do a quick kind of like visual presentation of the patient experience. So what you're looking at right now is, if you follow my cursor, on the left side, you can see this is the HINT enrollment form. The new patient will, sorry about that. New patient will enter their information, their payment information, agree to your agreements, which is really critical. That helps to protect you and the patient in terms of liability. And then once they sign up, they'll see a welcome page to your practice. We recommend using the feature in HINT that allows you to put a button on that page to link to your acute intake form. And so that schedule first appointment, they'll click that and go straight to the acute scheduling link. So over on the right side here, you'll see they'll just enter their information, schedule their first appointment, and answer those questions that Sharon was talking about. What are your health goals? What are your personal goals? Or whichever custom questions you choose to put there. And then you'll be able to send
this
that
is where you can just
patient email.
Yes, set that email.
Yeah. So just gonna click past this. So together, HintOS and Acute pricing starts at $100 a month. We both start as a $50 minimum with 50 cents per member per month. So we both are really invested in your scale and you growing. And so that is why we both have priced ourselves this way. So to combined, that is $100 a month. So if you want to check out either Acute Health or HINT, you can go to our websites. They're right here. You'll talk probably directly to Sharon if you go to Acute, and you'll talk to one of our, to Chelsea over at HINT if you go with HINT. We're all pretty, we're all like willing to help you talk about like what are your needs and what are you looking for as far as designing the patient experience. With that, I'm going to open up the questions. Thanks everyone for those who've already submitted. We have some good questions already. Okay, the first one is, I'm in a soft launch period. I'm having trouble integrating HINT, Acute, and Spruce so that it's seamless for me and the patient. For example, folks are not signing up for Spruce right away, so I feel like I have to keep sending them links. They aren't automatically filling out forms in Acute either. What's your workflow so that this is seamless for you and for the patient? Dr. Hodge, do you have any insights on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do have a couple workarounds. So hopefully this person, I think it's Allison, in Spruce, we have sort of built, like pre-built saved messages. So you hit period and then it comes up with just sort of a text prompt. You can have links in there. So you're hopefully not having to type that message and download link like over and over and over. You can have that saved. So it's really easy to just, like ours is called welcome. So you just hit period and start typing welcome, and then it creates kind of the message, and we'll send it to the patient's email, and then they also get a text, and then we wait 24 hours, and if we haven't seen them do it, we'll ping them one more time, and we don't do anything more than 2. If they don't sign up for Spruce on that second time, we sort of assume that they're either sort of having like a technology issue, or they just don't understand like what is this Spruce health thing, and how does that work. So we'll hop on the phone, sort of self-book them in Acute, and then bring them in for that, make that first visit really easy. And we build in some time, 15 minutes, and Amy or myself will sort of help them get the app set up, teach them how to use the technology. And because we have the time, especially in the startup launch phase, that we can actually sort of like get everything set for them and teach them on the spot. We've also thought about building out, and we did build out some like tutorials, on our website using GoPro and screen share capture and teaching patients like where to click and download things. But we found that patients just weren't really using that, and a quick phone call to fix the issue seemed to be the easiest way if 2 takes didn't work.
Great. And then I'll just add to that, really simple way would to maybe increase this, and I don't know if this speaks directly to your issue, but making sure on the HintOS enrollment form that you have that button to schedule first appointment, because that's kind of like the first link to Acute. So for those who do come in through the website, we know a lot of people do call, but for those who come in through the website, that should at least be pretty obvious that that's the first step in order to get an appointment at the clinic. All right, next question is, okay, this is from Shirley for Dr. Hodge. How did you get your members? Where did you market?
Yeah, that's so like Ariel mentioned, so much of it is word of mouth. And when I came back home, I just assumed that like my parents' friends, people that I knew would be the people joining the clinic, and that actually like wasn't the case at all. It was like a random person that drove by and came in, had a great experience, and then they recommended a family member, and then they sign the whole family up, or they tell somebody at work, and then that person comes. In terms of marketing efforts, I was sort of lucky because my brother works for PNC as head of their like digital marketing, and we use Squarespace and SEO, and I did a lot of my advertising using like Google ad search and sort of building some stuff there, and heavy into social media marketing. So using Facebook, I think I would not spend money on billboard advertising or advertising on any like sign in a mall or something. That money is much better spent on social media marketing and using Facebook ads. So take a popular Facebook post or Instagram post and then promote that, and a few $100s there will generate a lot of clicks on your website.
Great. Okay, we have a couple questions about like which patients count towards monthly pricing. So I guess that's for Hint and for Acute. And do metabolic, obesity medicine, and those that are not always monthly members, is there a way to separate those in Acute? I think Sharon would.
Yeah. So we basically price the same way as Hint. If they're a member, we charge you for it, and if they're not, if they're a one-time patient or whatever, then we don't. We'll kind of, we're early company, we're figuring it out as we go. But for now, I think that's been a model that's worked for both us and you as the doctor. And so far we're pretty happy with it. So for now, it's just like, if they're a member, then we charge you. And if they're not, we don't.
Yeah. And I'll just ditto that for Hint. They're an active member, meaning they have an active membership, then they count towards that, towards your monthly Hint bill. And if they don't, they aren't. We do have one-off visits. We launched that during the pandemic, especially when people were looking for new doctors that could do telehealth, and we saw a lot of our DPCs were really well equipped for that. So if you have one-off visit patients, they're not included in your like monthly membership charges, but the visit fee, it has the transaction costs associated with it.
And just to one other question is like, how do you separate an Acute? We get that information from Hint. So if you're using Hint, we'll be able to tell if they're a member or not that way. So it makes it really nice to use the integration that way.
Great. Okay. Okay, Dr. Hodge, can you comment on at what point it makes sense to sign up for Acute's growth versus basic program?
Yeah, that's sort of a challenging, because I've been with Sherrod, I think, sort of before these different options were available. He may be better able to describe that, but I would say like we have talked about what things to include with the different options, and I would go like very like simple for the beginning. I wouldn't get all of the bells and whistles, because if you have Spruce and Hint, there are a lot of resources there that you can survive and get, go along without like e-faxing capability and the integrated forms. You can build your own PDFs online and pay a few dollars to have fillable PDFs that you mail to patients or email them and just tell them, hey, bring this to your first visit. I would start lean in startup, and I would save as much money as you can, because you never know like how you're going to grow. And then once you start to get some stability and covering your overhead, then I would expand and add those additional things. And those first people that sign up, like they're going to stay with you independent of whatever technology thing that you have. They tend to be sort of like very loyal customers. So I don't think it's going to make or break them signing up is sort of my overall opinion.
Yeah, I agree with Dan. Is the reason they're called startup versus growth plans is I really feel like when you're starting up, you should just sign up for the startup plan. And the main differences in the plans are that like the growth plan has features that'll help you, once you have a lot of patients, then it becomes harder to, order labs through LabCorp. You'd rather order the labs integrated or something like that. So yeah, just like little efficiencies that become a big deal as you're bigger. But when you're first starting, I think the startup plan is a good choice.
All right, we have a couple more questions. Allison has a few questions that some of these might be better answered by our support team just because they're in the product every day and they work with all sorts of different special use cases. I'll do my best to answer, but I might get a message from our customer success team who is also on this webinar saying I totally screwed it up. So I definitely recommend that you reach out to support@hint.com for like the proper answer. But the first one is I'd like for a patient to be able to sign up and schedule and put a payment source in, but not charge them until the day I see them. That way, if it's not a great fit, I don't have to deal with refunding. Is this a reasonable strategy? And is it feasible with Hint and Acute? Is it a reasonable strategy? I would say that makes a lot of sense. Everyone else, are we all in agreement that is a pretty reasonable strategy?
Yeah, it's a sort of, it comes down to sort of what your lawyers are advising you in terms of billing in arrears or billing up front. And every DPC doc has their own sort of opinion. I tend to bill up front, but I know there's sort of the majority of folks that bill in arrears, and you can set that pretty easily in Hint. So I don't think you should have any issues there. That you may have to sort of put the registration fee to zero, but I'm sure there's a workaround with that. That should be relatively easy to fix.
Yeah, my mind went to also the pending membership, and then if you confirm it on the date of their first appointment, that might be a way to do it. But I would definitely recommend making sure that you speak with our customer success team because there might be something I'm not thinking about in implications. So that's my answer.
I think you can do unconfirmed memberships as well. That might be.
And then last couple questions here. You see one-offs for special, Allison again, see one-offs for specialty consults. Can't figure out a great way via Hint to send them agreements and consents, any workarounds. I've been emailing agreements and waiting for patients to send back. Gets clunky. Yeah, Hint is really designed for membership patients. So in that sense, Hint probably isn't the best tool for those one-off consults to do those agreements. Most of our documents are for the patient agreement. So sorry, I don't have a better answer for that. Dr. Hodge, do you have any, or Sherrod, do you have any?
Yeah, we do run into that like as an obesity consult. And then I also like in Pennsylvania, there's a medical marijuana certification. And you're right that like those one-off sort of consults don't fit really neatly into Hint. I would just draft like a secondary contract, and I believe you can upload that directly into Hint. It might not be your standard patient agreement, but I was lucky that my wife is like a contract attorney, so she helped me. I have separate agreements for those types of visits. I don't know if that helps you.
Great. And then this is the last question, which is, what intake forms do you use for your patients? Do you send them right away when they sign up?
Yeah, I use the standard. Actually, Sherrod and I spent some time building the one that is built into Acute, and I am usually pretty transparent and direct with the feedback. I think it's a little cumbersome in some of the parts, and I know that he's been working on ways to sort of streamline that to make it, sort of more customizable, and then also adding in certain features where, say, they list hypertension in their past medical history section, being able to like click that and add it to their patient history. So I know those things are in the works. And if there's one thing that I could say about Sherrod is that he's very like invested in his product. And if you give him feedback, he really responds well and will integrate the things that you want. So what the product is today might not necessarily be what it is in 3 months, and he can help shape that for your practice, which is awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely the forms need some work, but happy to, if you email me, share it at acutehealth.com, we can talk about what you're needing and figure out, how to fix them, and they'll get better. Well, there's a lot of work we can do.
Great. Last question. So if it's from Amanda, I'm currently a member of both Hint and Acute. Are there tutorials offered to get more acquainted with Acute? I feel I'm not using the EMR to its full capacity.
Yeah, I think I'll answer you. Just go ahead and email me. Either share it at acutehealth.com, SHARUD as in dog, or support at acutehealth.com, and we can set up some training sessions or whatever and figure out how to help you use it more efficiently.
Awesome. And then Hint has a great support site. We also have, you can call Hint if you need support. If you're just trying to figure out how to set something up, we always have people who are available to help you out with that. Hopefully you found those, our support documents pretty useful. But again, if you can't find what you're looking for, you can always call or email support@hint.com. Great. Well, that is our time today. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Dr. Hodge. Thank you, Sherrod, for coming on. With that, we're going to end today's session. And have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.